Wow. Things keep getting worse and worse for Disney, and well, after this news just broke, it doesn't seem to be changing anytime soon.
The following is a World-Class Bullshitters exclusive.
To quote Dane Cook, we all love car accidents. You can't look away. That's why traffic backs up on the highway when even the smallest infraction happens. But what happens when the biggest car on the road has the most spectacular crash of all time? People can't stop looking. And for the sake of today's video, that car is Disney, and that crash is more historic than you can possibly imagine. Disney is currently the biggest entertainment producing company on the planet. They're part of everything. They produce films, TV shows, books, video games, and more. But the thing they can't produce in 2023 is a successful film. This year has seen a string of Disney flops unlike any other before. And the surprising part is, they all come from franchises that are historically very, very popular. Films like Indiana Jones, a Marvel film, a remake of a highly successful film, and a continuation of the Marvel Cinematic Universe have all failed miserably and spectacularly. And the press has the numbers to show you just how bad this Disney car crash is. But before we look at the carnage, today's video is brought to you by me, Jeff Hicks, and my graphic novel, Stealing Solo. Stealing Solo asks the greatest what-if question of all time. What if a group of disgruntled Star Wars fans kidnap Harrison Ford and force him to remake Star Wars in their basement? That, and a whole lot more, is answered in Stealing Solo, a Captain's Parody. Stealing Solo has been called Laugh Out Loud Funny and the greatest Star Wars parody since Spaceballs, and it's available now for a limited time only. Go to stealingsolo.com, which is powered by Shopify, so you get the reward-winning safety and security, and get yourselves a copy today. Once we sell through this limited backstock, I'm going back to the drawing board to bring you the sequel, which parodies Luke Skywalker's fall from grace, and finally the closing chapter, which I can't wait to get to, Frankenfisher, the Bride of Solo. And yes, it's exactly what you think it is. So folks, the only way to get that is go to stealingsolo.com right now, get yourselves a copy, and enjoy the greatest Star Wars parody since Spaceballs. Thank you to those who have a copy, thank you to those who will get a copy, and for those who are wondering around the world, it'll be available internationally by August 9th. Remember folks, stealingsolo.com. And now, back to the video. Disney has done a lot of things to anger fans over the last few years, and it's hard for fans to care about Disney at their lowest depths. Things have gotten so bad for Disney that the press is actually being honest for once and telling the true story of how bad Disney's doing. And let's check out those numbers because they have to be seen to be believed. This financial information comes from Forbes. The 4 flops of 2023 that cost Disney $1 billion. I bet you that's what Bob Iger loves to wake up to every morning. Disney has revealed that it spent $965 million on 4 of its most high-profile streaming and film flops this year. Disney has been on a cost-cutting drive since its chief executive Bob Iger returned to the helm of the company in November last year. 3 months later, he told investors that the studio needs to reduce costs on everything we make because while we're extremely proud of what's on screen, it's gotten to the point of where it's extraordinarily expensive. That's no exaggeration. Budgets of movies and streaming shows are usually confidential as studios combine the cost of them in their overall expenses and don't itemize how much they spend on each one. Here's the chart right here in front of you. As we have reported extensively, productions made in the UK are an exception. Studios have set up separate companies to make each one and get a cash reimbursement of up to 25% of the money they spend in the UK. Each company has to file financial statements, and they shine a spotlight on the spending. Disney is filming increasingly more content in the UK to take advantage of this incentive. It was home to 4 of the most expensive productions released by the studio this year, and they've also been among its worst performers. This ignominious list kicked off in February with Disney's Marvel Studios' superhero caper Ant-Man and the Wasp and Quantumania. The movie opened to lukewarm reviews, but no expense was spared as Disney spent a total of $193.2 million on pre-production and filming, as was revealed by Forbes. The sci-fi movie was the 3rd installment in the Ant-Man series and was widely derided for its computer-generated imagery. It grossed $476 million worldwide, which was lower than both of the prequels. Studios kept around half of the proceeds, with the remainder retained by the theaters, giving Quantumania an $81.9 million profit after it banked $37 million in reimbursements. However, it may well end up in the red as the next financial statements are filed. They will show the colossal cost of post-production. May's live-action fairy tale The Little Mermaid seemed to make the bigger splash but ended up floundering. The movie was branded woke for updating a story of Disney's classic 1989 cartoon and was also criticized for its CGI, which made the once cute characters look like eerie aliens. Let's stop for just a quick second. Forbes actually acknowledged the woke backlash. That's a surprise. For years, many of these publications would try to act like it wasn't a thing and just label that as silliness on the internet. But when the movies don't make money, they have to acknowledge all points of view, and I'm surprised that Forbes actually did that. Now, according to this information, by August 31st of 2021, Sandcastle Pictures, the Disney UK subsidiary behind The Little Mermaid, had spent a total of $265.5 million. The financial statements revealed that the movie's cost was forecasted to be over the production budget due to the potential COVID-19 impact. It put Disney's net spending on the movie at $212 million after the UK tax incentive, giving the film its $70 million profit on its $282 million share of the box office. However, it doesn't stop there. Like Quantumania, its costs are set to swell in the next financial statement as the movie was only a month and a half into post-production as of the date of the latest filings. So it's about to get juicy, folks. And to be on the lookout for that information, make sure you subscribe to World Class Bullshitters because we will definitely cover that and a whole lot more. Disney had yet another bite at the blockbuster cherry with the premiere of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny in June. There were high hopes for the fifth Indiana Jones film after the trailer showed a de-aged Harrison Ford that was well received. It didn't come cheap. In November 2022, it was revealed that Disney had spent $294.7 million on the movie. That only covered pre-production, filming, and 1 month of post, so the spending doesn't stop there. It got a $55.8 million reimbursement, bringing its net cost down, but it still needs to gross $477.8 million for Disney to break even. So far, the movie has only made $357.9 million, and the costs are set to surge in the next financial statement.
Thanks for the good news.
Man, I cannot wait to read a financial statement, and that's the only time I've ever said that, but it probably won't be the last. Disney may end up making a loss on what seemed to be a surefire hit. Then came Secret Invasion. Based on the beloved Marvel comic series about a race of shape-shifting aliens secretly invading the corridors of power, the Disney Plus streaming show also had great potential. However, its serious tone, gaping plot holes, and poor CGI put off fans, leading to its crescendo becoming the single lowest rated episode of any Marvel streaming show with just a 7% score on Rotten Tomatoes. It dropped! It dropped. When we first talked about it on the podcast on Thursdays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, it was at a 13%. By the time I made the video the next day, it dropped to 10%, and now it's dropped again to 7%. Well, I guess it can go a lot lower. Can it go lower than 7%? Well, I don't think anyone's going to watch it anymore, but if more people did, it would probably hit 0. So the article goes on to say that Disney Plus subscribers pay for the service, so you can't really guess how much money is made from these shows. But like the other projects we've talked about today, there is no doubt about the cost of making Secret Invasion because it too was filmed in the UK. As Forbes revealed, the show's bafflingly high budget of $211.6 million, despite the shortcomings of its visuals. It brings the total bill on just these 4 productions to $965 million, and that largely doesn't even include post-production costs. No wonder Bob Iger wants to slash spending, but if he doesn't manage to improve the audience reception, it still might not be the dream ticket. Disney has such a long way to go to change audiences' perceptions because there's a couple of reasons why each one of these things failed, and let's talk about them briefly. 1, let's talk about Secret Invasion because it's the most recent thing on this list. It was bad. It was terrible. The comic book is pretty good. I actually quite like it a bit. But this show was hard to watch. So much, in fact, that I gave up on it, and I can sit through a lot of Marvel crap because of my love of comic books. That's why I make them. But this show was just too much to suffer through, so I watched the first, the second, and the final episode. And it makes me less inclined to watch anything from the MCU going forward on Disney+. To be completely honest, I feel like tapping out on the MCU in general because it's such a chore to sit through. I haven't had a good time in one of those films since, well, Spider-Man. I know Guardians of the Galaxy 3 has just come out and we gave it a good review, but even then, that film's not as memorable as some people would like it to be. Indiana Jones 5 was without a doubt the biggest disappointment of the year. There are millions of Indiana Jones fans around the world, and they wanted to see Dr. Jones go on one more adventure, because the last film was absolutely terrible. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull ruined the Indiana Jones brand, and the Dial of Destiny did nothing to fix it. Well, this film was not good at all. It was slightly better than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, but the damage had been done to the brand in 2008. With that being said, Disney failed to produce anything of interest for Indiana Jones fans. Like all modern Lucasfilm productions, they have to include an unlikable new character to talk down to the old likable character that we've all paid to see. If you expected Indiana Jones going on one more adventure, no, you really got Helena Shaw at the forefront of it all. And audiences knew that, and that's why they didn't show up. It's the same thing with the Star Wars films. You're paying to see Han, Luke, and Leia return? No, here's Rey, Finn, and Poe. Who are they? It won't matter. The girl's the powerful one. On that same female ticket, The Little Mermaid garnered a lot of negative press before it came out because of its race swapping. Of course, in the culture where everyone wants to blame the people commenting on this to be racists or bigots or anything else like that, The reality of the situation is, those people's opinions actually do matter at the box office. You can have this ideological warfare on Twitter or X or whatever it's called these days, but it actually matters to these people if the characters look the way they're supposed to. Movies are a visual medium and design is everything. If the girl playing Ariel doesn't look like Ariel, well, people aren't going to show up. Why would they? If they really want to watch The Little Mermaid, they can just watch it on Disney Plus or on home video. Whatever the format is, they can watch the original because it's been widely available since the late 1980s. This film, like all Disney live-action remakes of animated classics, really serves no purpose. And I think this is finally catching up to Disney because the audiences are finally letting it be known that we don't want this type of stuff. Original properties, original ideas, hell, even an original film based on something that's been around for a long time like Barbie, makes way more money than something established from Disney. Because you already know the story. What's the difference? It's a girl who's a mermaid who wants to be human. She trades in her voice for a pair of legs. She falls in love with a dude. Shit ensues. You know the story. It's a fairy tale. I saw The Little Mermaid once. Alright, give me a break. But I saw all the controversy surrounding this film. And you know what? I'm seeing it again. The new Snow White film is probably going to be another disaster for Disney. And guess what? It's being filmed in the UK. So we'll get all the financial information from that film as well. And finally, let's talk about Ant-Man. We reviewed it back in February, and the film sucked. It was the worst Ant-Man film by a country mile, and probably one of the worst MCU films overall. And the CGI was the stuff of legend for how terrible it was. There was even a whole controversy around Victoria Alonso, the woman responsible for hiring the CGI artist for producing that portion of the film. And well, she was let go for many reasons. Check out our video on that topic to hear all of them and more. But at the end of the day, it's the post-production that is so expensive on these films, and it's the post-production that's hurting these films the most. Ant-Man, Little Mermaid, Indiana Jones, and Secret Invasion all look bad, because Disney has spent so much up front to make these films that when they have to get to the post-production, the CGI, the finishing touches, the things that fans will notice the most, well, there's no more money for that, so they stop spending, they cut corners, and the films look terrible. Indiana Jones, for as much as we all wanted him to look just like he did in the 1980s, well, it was a little off. Ant-Man was laughably bad, The Little Mermaid was scary, and Secret Invasion was an embarrassment. It's no wonder why Disney is in the predicament they're in. And well, if we learned anything about Disney over the last couple of years, they're not going to change anytime soon. They'll tell you they're going to change, they'll tell you it's time to fix these problems, but in reality, we have to see them before we can actually believe them. Hollywood studios love to give you the same old bait and switch. We're going to give you this thing, and we don't. They claim it's part of the appeal of Hollywood, but in reality, it's just the same old shit, and finally it's hurting them at the box office. Disney's most recent film, The Haunted Mansion, is another film that's failed to deliver, so Disney just keeps on losing and losing and losing. Like it was stated by our good friend WDW Pro on an episode of The High Council, which airs on Tuesdays at 9 p.m., Disney isn't probably going to make a profit on any film in 2023, and it looks like that's becoming more and more true each and every day. One has to wonder, what will these films look like in the future? If Marvel doesn't have the budget to pull off the superhero heroics that are required to make these films look believable, well, what's the value of the brand anymore? Many fans argue that the genre peaked at Avengers Endgame, and the numbers really do prove that. No superhero film has made that much money ever again, and while some have crossed $1 billion, the general excitement has left the building. And Disney is left with a very expensive IP that really doesn't bring in the cash like it used to. And don't even get me started on Star Wars. That franchise is DOA. We know the Ahsoka show's coming out in just a few short days, which we'll cover here on the channel. But that was produced before Bob Iger came back and started this cost-cutting initiative. And we have the numbers for the Disney Plus Star Wars shows, and some of those episodes cost up to $25 million to produce. That's the budget of a small film these days. And Disney, well, they've had the money to do it, but they won't moving forward. So folks, I want to know what you think about all this. Tell me in the comments below. Here are your 3 questions for today. 1, do you think Disney can recover from this? 2, what do you think the next Disney flop will be? And 3, of these films that we listed, what was the least offensive to you? If you've seen any of them, let me know as well. I've seen 3 of the 4 because The Little Mermaid was never for a guy like me. But I couldn't help but talk about the controversy surrounding it. It was so fascinating how a film was on the public consciousness. And the whole point I took away from it is, people like fairy tales, be them modern or classic, they like the fairy tales the way they are. So trying to modernize and update a fairy tale the Disney way just doesn't hit with audiences. So hopefully after the impending failure of Off-White and the 7 Pronouns, Disney will stop with the live-action remakes across the board, or at least make them close to the version that people love, and give them a reason to go see their favorite movie in a different medium. But this is Disney, and it's going to take a while for change. So folks, thank you for watching. Before you go, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and check out StealingSolo.com. Stealing Solo is the greatest Star Wars parody since Spaceballs, and it answers the greatest what-if question of all time. What if a group of disgruntled Star Wars fans kidnap Harrison Ford and force him to remake Star Wars in their basement? It answers that and a whole lot more, and it's available for a limited time. I want to thank everybody who's been buying up the book online. We've moved multiple cases. There's only a few cases left. And once we do get through all of these, I'm going back to the drawing board to bring you the sequel, which features a parody of Luke Skywalker's fall from grace. And after that one, we're going to get to the book I really want to make, Frankenfisher, The Bride of Solo, and it's exactly what the title sounds like. So folks, if you love good quality content, well, make sure you subscribe to World Class Bullshitters. But if you enjoy great graphic novels, follow me, Jeff Hicks. I'm all over social media, but the best place to find me is here on this channel. So folks, thank you for watching. I'll be back next time with more. But in the meantime, be smart, be safe, be cool, but always be excellent to each other. Thanks for watching today's video. Yes, it's over, but don't cry because there's more, a lot more from World Class Bullshitters. And there's only one way to get it. Hit that subscribe button below. When you do that, you'll get notifications and updates from World Class Bullshitters every time we go live. Basically, you won't miss anything. And if there's one thing I hate, it's FOMO. But the thing most people hate more than FOMO is fear of missing out on World Class Bullshitters, because there's just some things you can't undo. So folks, do yourselves a favor and never miss anything from World Class Bullshitters. One last thing before you go, hit the thumbs up button. Not for our egos, no, they're big enough as this, but it does help us fight the algorithm here, and well, it's man versus machine, and that's the real fight. But if that's not your battle, that's okay. There's one last way you can help WCBS, and that's going over to shopwcbs.com, picking up a t-shirt, a beer glass, a sweatshirt, a poster, all sorts of ways to back WCBS. The difference between us and other YouTube channels is I'm the artist that makes all this stuff, so if you enjoy art beyond t-shirts, you can even read our comic books. We got it all. We're called the epitome of pop culture for a reason, and no, again, it's not for our egos. So folks, make sure you're involved with every aspect of World Class Bullshitters, not just for us, but do it for yourself. We're making the change in entertainment everybody out there wants to see. And a special thank you goes out to all of our wonderful patrons who make this content possible. Go to patreon.com/worldclassbs to get involved and help out the channel.